The youngest contestant, which is Nathan, aged 8.
It's amazing to cook in that kitchen. It's so fun. But some of the equipment is bigger than me.
I'm canceling this kid. Get canceled, 8-year-old from 10 years ago. The team behind MasterChef Junior wants you to believe it's a show about 8 to 13-year-olds competing in feats of cooking skill, thinking quickly to meet the chef's surprise requirements for each exciting challenge. In reality, not only do these kids know what the surprise requirement for their challenge will be weeks in advance, most of them are here to become child stars, not chefs. They're cast based on personality far above their interest in cooking. That kid Nathan was an actor for years before the show began and is still acting today. You may have seen him in that Sunny episode where Mac and Charlie beat him up. So yeah, that restaurant he wanted to start with his dad? The only restaurant he's gonna be starting is a Wahlburgers style establishment, by which I mean it won't really be his top priority. So yeah, I hate to break it to you, but reality shows, they're fake. But Leo, they're called reality, how can they be fake? Get used to it, sheep. But, I'm sorry, it's just called reality, get over it. Obviously, we all know reality shows are openly fake. We've all heard the stories of producers pushing the cast in a certain direction or crafting a narrative just completely out of thin air. But the extreme methods they use to fake these shows and the brazenness with which they do it is astonishing. Especially as they tiptoe around some legally dubious territory, but we'll get to that later. MasterChef Senior, colloquially shortened to MasterChef, has also had some whistleblowers, bitter about how the producers crafted their story. Season 2's Ben Starr wrote a blog post years after his time on the show, revealing details of the contract he signed. Here's an unedited excerpt of the contract. The rights granted to producer also include, but are not limited to, the rights to edit, cut, rearrange, adapt, dub, revise, modify, fictionalize, or otherwise alter the material, and I waive the exercise of any moral rights. I understand that my appearance, depiction, and portrayal in connection with the series may be disparaging, defamatory, embarrassing, or of an otherwise unfavorable nature, may expose me to public ridicule, humiliation, or condemnation, and may portray me in a false light. Basically, they can lie about you up to and including the point of ruining your life, and you're never allowed to sue them ever. I get why they need to cover themselves for any possible scenario, but how do you sleep at night after writing those words out? Right, money bet. Bet of money. Ben also explains a common trick they used on MasterChef that I can't stop noticing in reality TV since. They put the contestant in the same clothes for every interview so that the editors can combine every word from any of the days and weeks of interviews they have, making them appear to say literally anything. Ben mentions MasterChef making one sentence out of 3 separate interviews with him. It's like in those videos where they combine Obama clips to make him do rap songs. By the way, who made this? I'm dead. I'm screaming. Who made this? The Bachelor has been outed for having similarly jaw-dropping contracts and also for how they shape the narrative each season. For example, if by episode 5, The Bachelor knows without a doubt who they're going to choose to be their partner at the end, they legally have to pretend it's an even race all the way until the finale, which is obviously the only way the show works at all. Common sense would have told you they have to do that. The show has to hit a certain number of episodes each season, and outside of a tight, planned structure like this, that's just not really realistic. But it's called reality TV! Drop it! I know it's confusing. House Hunters is also structurally unavoidably fake, with each episode's house hunter having already killed or bought a house prior to taping. According to an anonymous former house hunter, they won't even consider you for the show unless you already have a purchase agreement signed and have access to both your new home and your former home for the duration of the filming period. Now think about it. Every half-hour episode of House Hunters has to feature an intro, visits to 3 properties, and then a decision between them at the end. What if the buyer doesn't choose any of those 3 houses? Is HGTV gonna contractually force the person to buy and move into one of those houses just so the story of the episode feels complete? When the first story about this blew up, PR for House Hunters released a statement to Entertainment Weekly admitting it was true, but defending it. To maximize production time, we seek out families who are pretty far along in the process. Often everything moves much more quickly than we can anticipate, so we go back and revisit some of the homes that the family has already seen and we capture their authentic reactions. Because the stakes in real estate are so high, these homeowners always find themselves right back in the moment, experiencing the same emotions and reactions to these properties. It is amazing to admit that it's fake like that, but insist it just doesn't matter. It sure matters to me. The only thing reality conceptually has going for it is that I'm watching relatable, real people go through something. If they're pretending the entire episode, then it's just a boring show with bad actors. Judge Judy is fake too. She's not judging anything. It's arbitration. She should be called Arbiter Judy, and she should have a bitchin' energy sword. Inside AGT is an entire book of contestant experiences on reality competition show America's Got Talent. Multiple past participants have seen the show set performers up to fail, sometimes letting singers rehearse with perfect audio but then cutting out the monitors for the real thing so the performers can't hear themselves and sing off key, all because it's narratively time for them to get kicked off the show. Also, violinist Damien Escobar compared the between performance conditions to being in prison, with performers kept in a holding area for 19 hours a day before it was time to rehearse. He mentioned a nurse going around giving people vitamin shots to keep them going and an on-set therapist. I could do a whole separate video on the conditions they put these people through. When I was researching this, the phrase on-set therapist came up constantly. The Voice, for those who don't know, is a singing competition show where viewers can vote for their favorite singers by phone or by purchasing their songs on iTunes. Although the contract also stipulates that they can ignore the voting system at any time. Where'd they get that idea from? The goddamn motherfucking shit fucking god shitting electoral college? Sorry. There's no evidence yet that The Voice has done this to rig the competition, but there sure is on Last Comic Standing. In Last Comic Standing, the judges can be outvoted by the producers on who can move forward in the competition, usually so they can push for the best cast for the offstage aspects of the show, rather than the best comic. Drew Carey, who is one of the celebrity judges on the show, called it a trick being played on the public. Which, okay, bud. But the kicker here is that in his season, 2 of the cast members who made the final 10 were managed by an executive producer on the show, Barry Katz. It's a blatant conflict of interest, at best incredibly dishonest. A competition like that would never fly outside the realm of reality TV, but Barry Katz stayed on as executive producer on LCS, fans call it LCS, for years after that. Nobody cares. So now that we're talking about shows with stakes, whether it's the career boost of Last Comic Standing or the $1 million cash prize on America's Got Talent, this is where the tricks of reality TV are becoming not just a moral question, but nearing a legal one. Which brings us to Storage Wars. Storage Wars is a show about people bidding on abandoned storage units in the hope that the contents end up being valuable enough to make them a profit. It's, what's the word? Fake. With the producers placing some of the most interesting items in the units ahead of time and then framing them as exciting discoveries. That's according to former cast member David Hester, who sued the network on the grounds that by doing this, they're violating an amendment to the Communications Act of 1934. This is where things get really interesting for me. The amendment in question came after a series of scandals in the 1950s nearly destroyed the quiz show genre, or genre, as Trebek would say.
A Japanese cartoon genre.
Shows like 21, The $64,000 Question, and Dado were all canceled after former contestants spoke about being instructed through every part of the process, many being fed answers to the questions or instructed to take the fall and lose the episode. 150 witnesses spoke in court, but so many of them benefited from the riggings that a prosecutor on the case later estimated only 50 of them told the truth. They would rather commit perjury than admit the lie and damage their reputation. But the reputation of quiz shows was completely destroyed. According to polls at the time, as much as 95% of the public knew about the quiz show scandals. Which, while you or I may be intellectuals who know there are producers telling Kaylee Kardashian to slap Cartman Kardashian, I wouldn't put the percent of the public who knows that at nearly 95%. But none of it was illegal. No one went to prison for it. Afterwards, Eisenhower ended up signing into law the prohibiting of rigging of purportedly bona fide contests of intellectual knowledge or skill. This is pretty cut and dry. There are right answers to these questions, and the contestants should not be given them in advance, at least when the pitch to the American public is that it's all real. But with the reality shows of today, it's a little more iffy. Certainly in Storage Wars' case, calling it a contest of intellectual skill is kind of a stretch. David Hester ended up with a cash settlement from the network out of court, which seemed like the best outcome he could have hoped for. And with competition shows like Last Comic Standing, those are completely subjective. No matter what the cash on the line or the benefit to the producer who's voting on it, you could never prove that the comic who won didn't deserve to. There's no right answer on these shows. But the quiz show scandals of the 50s nearly blasted that whole genre off the map, with their mass cancellations paving the way for the early iterations of the game shows we see today, where you spin a big wheel or try and spell a word or whatever you people watch. There was a lot of fallout for those scandals. They changed the law. And what's so different now? Reality and competition shows are fake, and we all know it, but this time we just don't care at all? I think it might be a case of it just being too gray to have an easy take about. It's gotta be all good or all bad to really rally the troops around, and the truth is, fixing reality shows is pretty harmless. They're making good TV, and anything questionable is probably covered in the contract. And maybe none of the proof about competition shows out there is quite damning enough. Because I do believe that if it came out Jeopardy champion Ken Jennings had the answers written on his hand the whole time, people would be mad about that. But that probably won't happen, because it's regulated by the law. It's funny how now quiz shows are seemingly the only reality shows free from rigging. I do wonder if the reason there have been no new laws prohibiting this stuff since the rebirth of reality TV is because the government doesn't want to write any new laws about not lying. You know, glass houses and everything. So why don't we care? Is it because there are maybe other things going on? I've heard there might be a pandemic of some sort? MasterChef Junior is better now. That clip at the start was from the pilot. The later seasons have settled into a much better format. Instead of just lying over and over that these kids are making restaurant quality stuff, they've got a lot more fun surprises and reasons it'd be entertaining and empowering for a kid to watch with their family. And sometimes a competition show like America's Got Talent can actually be a good showcase for performers to launch a career. Even if it is a gamble whether you're going to get railroaded for a future reality show audition fail compilation. All I know is, no one cares. It's a mildly interesting topic at best, and certainly not worth making a 12-minute video about. Oh, shit.